P.N.03, or Product Number 3, was developed by Capcom Production Studio 4 and directed by Shinji Mikami of Resident Evil fame. The game was actually part of the Capcom Five, a series of 5 games that were exclusive to the Nintendo GameCube, alongside the likes of Beautiful Joe, Resident Evil 4, and Killer 7, and the cancelled game Dead Phoenix. Unlike those other games, P.N.03 is a game that's hard to define. You could say it's a third-person action game, but I would label it a third-person shoot-'em-up. P.N.03 is the kind of game that would have felt right at home on the Dreamcast, as it feels like a game that was ripped straight out of the arcade. In P.N.03, you'll play as Vanessa Z. Schneider, a freelance mercenary. This isn't a story-focused game, as the story is paper-thin. The only cutscenes that you will encounter are at the tail end of the game. The rest of the plot is told through short and rather stale conversations between her and her client before and during the missions. Her mysterious client has hired her to destroy the computerized armament system, a series of robots that went haywire. Before we can talk about the gameplay, we'll have to talk about the controls, because the controls in P.N.03 are unintuitive to say the least. And this seems to be the start of a trend with games I decide to play and review. But I would say I'm actually someone that has a high tolerance for some cumbersome controls. However, this game actually took me longer than usual to adjust to. So when I started playing, I could see why P.N.03 was met with some unfortunate and harsh criticisms when it released back in 2003. But were they too harsh? You'll be running forward with a left analog stick, as you'd expect for a third-person game, but you'll also be moving the camera left and right on the same stick. Right then and there, you know you're in for a bit of a learning curve. You'll want to put aside the muscle memory that you've built for other third-person games, and think of this more like a shoot-'em-up. You'll be moving forward and then doing evasive spins left and right with the triggers. You'll not only use these for dodging attacks, but you'll also want to get into the rhythm of using evasive maneuvers to move Vanessa around at all times. You can also perform a backdash by pressing back on the analog stick and perform flippity-dippities by jumping forward and back. Thankfully, you can spin the camera around 90 degrees by pressing Z, which does come in handy. That said, there is some extra camera movement. While you don't have full control, you can change the camera angle with the C stick to get different perspectives. It's a little strange, and I didn't find myself using it a whole lot, but there were a couple of occasions where it was useful, giving me a better angle on some approaching missiles. Despite the bad first impression put upon me by the controls, after a couple of hours it finally clicked. I was in full swing and blasting enemy robots, figuring out their attack patterns and dodging their projectiles. You'll want to use the topography to your advantage too. It's frantic and fast-paced. The game features 11 main missions. Each main mission will actually begin with our main character Vanessa appearing out of a white energy orb, Terminator style. She's equipped with an Aegis suit, an exoskeleton suit that's connected to her spinal cord. These suits have different energy drives or special moves that can be executed by performing Street Fighter-like commands. These moves also give you some precious invincibility frames, so I often would use them defensively as well. Each main mission is split up into a series of rooms. You'll rack up points for destroying enemies, and you'll get bonuses for combo kills, or taking no damage in each room. There isn't a whole lot to say about the game's presentation. While it does sound great, the level design is anything but traditional. Some rooms are used many times and you'll see a lot of the same futuristic, sterile white environments. But thankfully you will not have a lot of time to think about that, because the challenges in these rooms get more complicated and frantic as the game progresses. In some of the later stages, for instance, you'll be taking on giant tanks, maneuvering through laser traps, and the further you get, the more hectic the game becomes, throwing a greater number of enemies and crazier attack patterns at you, forcing you to concentrate and enter a shoot-'em-up zen-like state. While you're going from room to room, you'll find green, orange, and red orbs. Green refills your health, orange your special meter, and red will give you more continues. The game is actually pretty generous because it'll let you continue from the room that you died on. At the end of each mission, you'll usually be met with a boss fight. Now, some of these are rather simple, like taking down a reactor. Some boss fights actually get pretty wild and put your combat skills to the test. After taking down the boss in the final room, you'll be able to use the points you racked up to buy a number of power-ups to increase your defense, your attack power, or your energy drive meter. And you can also unlock new energy drives. There's also an upgrade that will give your thumb a rest and auto-fire. However, the first suit that you get will not have that luxury. And I actually found, even when you do get it, it's pretty useless until you fully upgrade it. Because I found pressing the fire button as fast as I could actually destroyed enemies a lot quicker than a partly upgraded auto-fire. But when you do have that perk fully upgraded, you'll actually wish you had it all along. I know my thumb was not only thankful, but Vanessa will fire at lightning speeds and actually also perform a number of new flashy dance moves to boot. It's no wonder why she's dancing. The game has an awesome soundtrack, which sounds absolutely killer, as the game supports Dolby Pro Logic 2, which is not something I can demonstrate for you, but the music should speak for itself. Among the different suits you can buy, they all come with different upgrade paths. Some are more offensive, some defensive, and others strike a balance between the two. The further you progress through the game, the more suits you'll unlock, and they come equipped with different energy drives. If you find yourself in need of some more points, you can get extra by taking part in trial missions before each of the main missions. It's also a good place to practice, since you won't use up any of your continues. However, I actually found that the game does not do a good job conveying how this trial mode works. At first I was confused on how I unlock the new levels, and I'm still not quite sure I fully understand it. On one hand, I was able to unlock the next trial after I cleared all the enemies out of every room. But on the other hand, I died early in one, but still unlocked the next trial. So actually I think it might have something to do with the total points that you earn. The trials also reset and change after each of the main missions, so you'll want to do at least probably 2 or 3 in between each mission, which I didn't realize until around mission 6, so I lost out on some potential easy cashola. A couple other things to note, there's exits all over the place, so don't make the mistake of exiting early. And if you do clear like 14 out of 15 rooms, and let's say you make your exit on the 15th room, it actually won't count that room that you just exited from. You have to first back out and then go back in, which is a bit odd. So you could say my experience with the trial mode was trial and error. All in all, Overall, P.N.03 is one of the more unique experiences I had with the game. I first thought this was actually going to turn into a pretty scathing review, but by the end I actually wanted to play more. I could see myself actually playing this in the future a little bit more, and get some more content with it, especially since you actually unlock some new suits after clearing the game, and a new difficulty. Also, I actually think Vanessa would actually be a pretty cool obscure character for a versus game, be it Marvel vs. Capcom or Capcom All-Stars if we ever get either of those. You know, those games always have like a few unexpected oddball characters in the roster, and I think she would fit the bill pretty well. Anyways, P.N.03 was the first of the Capcom 5 to be released, and the only one that remains exclusive to the GameCube. It's actually kind of a shame the game didn't perform well. That's probably why it has never been re-released. The developers wanted to make something that was different and set apart from the action games they've worked on, like Devil May Cry, and I think they accomplished that. This game rewards you for playing defensively and learning how to approach your enemies, which is a direction that's actually become pretty popular with the Souls series, and not to mention the shoot-'em-up elements, which we now see in action games like Nier. So I think the ideas presented here were ahead of their time, and a lot of the ideas for this game apparently were later repurposed for Platinum Games' Vanquish, which I definitely need to go back to. I never finished it. Anyways, I'd say if you like action games and shoot-'em-ups, and have not played P.N.03, give it a try. Not everyone is going to have the patience to find the fun. A lot of people didn't back in the day, but once it clicks, it really sticks. So if you played P.N.03 before, let me know your thoughts on it down below. And if you liked this review, please consider giving it a like, dropping a comment, and if you have not already, subscribe for more. I got some pretty big updates in store for the direction of the channel this year, which is starting to take shape as we approach the 1-year anniversary, which I'll do a separate video for. But a part of that does include many more game reviews like this here. In fact, I got a review for Strider 2014 coming up probably next week. So I hope you look forward to that, and with that said, I'll catch you later. Den, signing off.